Welcome to the Wellness Help Desk with your host, Kayla Modi, certified wellness coach and personal trainer. A wellness podcast focused on providing practical tips on how to curate a healthy lifestyle uniquely for you, where we discuss wellness hot topics with expert guests and have real candid conversations. It's the one-stop shop you need to get the help you've been looking for. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up? And welcome to the Wellness Help Desk. I'm your host, Kayla Modi, and this is episode 17. I'm so excited. I love when we have interview episodes because you all get to hear from an expert on a related topic that will leave you not only understanding a topic better, but how to better support yourself on your health and wellness journey. As you all know, we talked about in episode 14 on the Wellness Help Desk about the power of the relationship with yourself, where I covered self-compassion, self-awareness, and self-trust. And I firmly believe that the quality of the relationship with yourself is pivotal in being able to have a health and wellness journey that is sustainable, that you're not white-knuckling yourself through it, but one that you are actually enjoying. And so I thought it was so important to bring this guest on to talk about how powerful and how radical knowing yourself, even through a tool like the Enneagram, can be transforming for your health. And I want to tell you a little bit about our guest before we jump in. So our guest is Myrna, and she is an Enneagram Type 1 with the strong 9 wing, for those already familiar with the Enneagram. She spent most of her life abiding by society's rules and her own conditioned expectations. But one day she decided that she was over it, and the Enneagram was a critical tool in that liberation. As she became conscious of the heavy impact and influence of society on her life, she began to awaken to the possibilities of true fulfillment and ditch the noise. As a Type 1, she tended to see life through the lens of improvement, identifying weaknesses and crafting a plan to grow. And while this ultimately led to a lack of fulfillment, engaging in the Enneagram journey empowered her to reframe that superpower that so often crippled her and use it for the gem it truly is. She coaches at the intersection of Enneagram and wellness, supporting health seekers to discover how they're already whole and worthy. With 10 years of experience as an educator and an Enneagram certification from your Enneagram coach, she's equipped with the tools to support you in discovering your Enneagram type and understanding how to use this incredible tool to unpack your desired dimension of wellness to support your overall pursuit of health. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this interview with Myrna. We have Myrna with us, and I would love for you to just first introduce yourself to everyone who is listening. If they're not familiar with who you are, just tell them about what you do and how you got into being an Enneagram and health coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, y'all. I'm Myrna. I am an Enneagram and health coach, like Nikay just said. And gosh, it's been years now. But I discovered the Enneagram actually at a work conference, which is really funny. And I hated it when I first got introduced to it. Someone was like, "Oh, what's your Enneagram type?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And found out that I was a Type 1, started reading through the things, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is kind of cool." And then it started telling me about myself in not so great ways. And I'm like, "Ooh, I hate this thing. Like, let's just
Put it away.
Put it away." I did. I tabled it for a while. But once you take a test, you start getting the emails. And so my inbox started getting full of like random Enneagram things. And I don't know, somehow it just like crept back on into my life. And at the time I was working as a health coach and supporting folks with their health. And one day it just was just such a natural connection for me when I realized oh my gosh, I so saw how I was super rigid and structured in my health journey and how it was impacting my own health journey, and started to realize the connection for me and myself, and that ended up connecting to my clients and how I supported them. And it was really cool starting to bridge that gap. I guess they would say the rest is history.
Yes, I love that. And it's so funny you found out about it through a work conference. I found out about Enneagram from my sister. She introduced it to me like years ago, and she's very big into it, buys all the books. And I just remember like picking up one of the books and reading through the numbers, and I got to two, and I was like, I feel so seen. I was like, how is it
Mm-hmm.
possible that like this is me and words that I couldn't even put into words?
Yep.
And so I just was like, what is this? This is like so interesting. And I never took like a deep delve into it like my sister did, but it really, I feel like has just helped me understand a lot of myself a little bit better. And so I'm so grateful that she introduced it to me. But I'm curious, and you talked a little bit about going through your own like health and wellness journey. How has understanding your Enneagram type just supported you on your journey, like to help you support yourself? Or even like you said, there was just some rigidity there and just like sticking to your routine, or as you were supporting yourself. So, how was that helpful?
Yeah. How is that helpful in my own health journey? It honestly freed me in my health journey. It's so funny because I think
Mm,
so often we like look into the Enneagram, and a lot of times we get stuck in the negative. Or maybe that's just me, because I'm a one
no,
and
it's not
forever
just
trying to
you.
improve.
It's not just
But,
you.
yeah, so we just like I think have a tendency to get stuck in the negative. Like, man, I'm such a perfectionist and rigid and structured and blah blah blah. But as I really dove in and started to learn more about my growth path, which for me is a seven. Which, if those of you who know sevens, they're more lighthearted and fun, and they have their own, things that are difficult and challenging for them. But for me, it was such a freeing aspect to recognize, like, wow. And I think I've told this story before, but um, I was actually eating an apple. I was in the kitchen. I still remember it to this day. I was standing in front of the counter and I wanted to eat an apple, but I was feeling guilty about eating an apple. And y'all, like, an apple is healthy. It's a fruit. Like, hello.
Mm.
But the program I was on at the time was just like, no sugars, and fruit has sugars, and don't eat fruit. And I just was
Mm,
like, I felt the tension within me.
mm,
And that was the moment that I really like made this connection to like, I'm like not letting myself do what I know in my gut is right for me in this moment. Like my
yeah.
body's asking for this apple, and I'm like making it way bigger of a deal than it needed to be. And I think that was the
Mm,
moment that it like all connected. And since then, like it's been one decision after another to just check in with myself. Like if I'm about to eat something, like, is this
mhm,
something that I really want? Am I eating because um of emotions? Like what's happening here? I
mhm,
remember there was once gosh, all these memories that are floating back to me. There was once I really wanted to eat a piece of chocolate.
mhm,
And at the same like guilt of like, oh, I shouldn't be eating chocolate. But I was just like, no, I like have freed myself from this. Like, I want the chocolate. I'm going to eat the chocolate. And I'm literally about to take a bite. And I'm like, I don't actually want the chocolate. I'm sad.
mm.
Um, I
Wow.
want to go lay down. Like I want to be in my bed and I just want to cry. And
Mm,
so I put the chocolate down and I went to my room and I got in bed and I just let myself cry, which was me accessing my
mm,
fourth path, which was powerful for me because me and emotions just don't mix. And so, or I guess I should say
mhm,
didn't, because it was a really hard place for me to like access. And so it really has just been, I talk about all the time, like there's so many multiple dimensions of health. And so like, in that
mhm,
moment, what I really needed to was tend to my emotional health. And, I'm used to emotional eating. I'm used to like leaning into like, oh, let me just eat something to make me feel better. But the
mhm.
reality was like, no, I just needed to feel my feels.
Yeah.
And so I let myself feel my feels in that moment. And it was powerful. Like I literally, something else I always say is like, if you're going to eat something, like you better enjoy every single bite. And so I wasn't about to enjoy
Mhm.
that chocolate. I was just about to stuff my face, to try to make myself feel better. So I,
Yeah.
went to my room, I cried, and I remember waking up and going back to my office and seeing that chocolate and being like, I want that right now. And I savored every single bite of that chocolate afterwards.
Yes, I love
And
it.
it just, like I was able to actually enjoy it versus like using it to mask something else. And so that's a little glimpse, I
Mm.
guess, into how it's been playing a role into my life and how I've really been able to see the different aspects of me show up in my health journey and in the different dimensions.
So good. There's so many things you said, and I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. But it's just beautiful how it's helping you improve the relationship with yourself by
Yeah.
knowing yourself, that little glimpses into who you are. And then by partnering with yourself, making more informed decisions. And I talk about that so much on the podcast is you want to know who you are, what you want, because that helps you make clearer choices that you're
Yep.
actually meeting the right request for your body, whatever
Yep.
that may be. And I love how in that moment, you were able to use the different paths that there are on the Enneagram to say, wait a second, ask yourself some powerful questions, really be honest with yourself, and then meet the right need. And I feel like that's why sometimes people are like so disheveled and jumping from different strategies, is because they're like trying to meet the wrong need with the wrong strategy. And then they
Mm-hmm.
think it's a them problem or they're not motivated or whatever. But I just love that through the Enneagram type, it's just you improving that relationship with yourself and just getting more insight into yourself. So that is, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. And I also love how you said if you're going to eat something, you should savor every moment, because I'm a big foodie and anything I eat, my mom always said presentation is everything. So I make it look really good. Like I'm enjoying it. I'm dancing. Like, yes, we should not be consuming food with guilt and shame and criticalness and what we have to do after to like work that off. Like it just should be enjoyed for what it is and the
Yeah.
process that went into it being created. So I love that you mentioned that as well too. So obviously it has helped and improved you and along your own health and wellness journey, partnering with the Enneagram. But I am just curious, like how can women use it to support their own health and wellness journey? Like whether it's through the habits that they're trying to pursue or trying to decide the support they need or the structure that works best. What is ways that they can use it to kind of help support themselves?
Yeah, I like to say the Enneagram is a shortcut, so to speak, like a shortcut to
Mm.
really understanding yourself. And another way to look at it is like it's, it gives you the language to really describe what's happening
Ooh,
within. And so like with me, when I think about being an Enneagram one, like there's the stereotypical like, oh, she's a perfectionist. And it's like it's so much more than that. For me, like my core
mm-hmm.
desire truly is to do the right thing and to do things the right way, which is why I lean
Mm.
into structure, which if I, overextend that, that aspect of me turns into like rigidity and an unwillingness to like move from the structure that I created because I created what was right at the time for me. And I am moving from that. And so that's how it shows up for me. But like being able to have the language to describe that is a starting point. And in recognizing that, I can start identifying like where I'm doing that in my life. Um, like there's so many like nuanced aspects of it too. Like I mentioned earlier, my gut was trying to tell me one thing, but I was ignoring it. Like that's a very like within the
Mm.
Enneagram, ones tend to repress their instincts. And so we
Mm.
ignore our instincts. Which I totally
Mm.
was doing. And so learning about that, like
Yeah.
I get to start to see like where that shows up for me. And as that's showing up, like questioning. And a lot of times, like my two main questions typically for myself are like, how is that serving me? And what do I really want or need in this moment? And
Mm.
so like as I started to see those things showing up, I would ask myself, like, is this actually serving me? What do I actually want in this moment? So like in the example with the chocolate, it's like, do I actually want this? Like, what is coming up for me right now? And being able to like really check in with myself to recognize like, nah, I just want to go to bed. Or with the apple, it's like I just actually really want this apple, and my body was needing it at the time. And so it just helps, I think, recognize like how I've put myself in a box and how to free myself from that. And I think that's what it does for women. Like it helps us to see how am I showing up here? And is this serving me the way that I'm currently showing up?
Yeah.
Like this is a core belief and a core need that I have. And it's actually, keeping me boxed in a way that I don't need to be boxed in. I want to be free. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, just being able to identify those core beliefs and those core weaknesses, and being able to use that language to help us um, kind of make sense of the mess that's happening within us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good, Myrna. Like, I think the biggest thing too, like, I love that you said with those two questions, with the second one, what is it that I need? What is it that I want? And I think a lot of times for women, it's having the courage to ask that and having the courage to honestly answer
Yeah.
without all of the extra, excuses or whatever it may be. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, what is it that you want and need in this moment right now, regardless of everyone and everything else? And answering that honestly, because I feel like
Yeah.
that unlocks a lot of, okay, then this is my next step. I'm sure you get a lot from people of, I don't know where to start. Like, this health is overwhelming and I don't know what to
Yeah.
do. And it's like, well, have you sat with yourself and asked this question and answered it honestly?
Yeah.
Because you do know what first step is going to be appropriate for you and what you need and what you want. I could give you tons of recommendations, but it may not be best for you right now. And that's probably why you're not sticking with anything, because it's not really what you
Yes.
need. So I love that that's one of the questions that you are just consistently kind of checking in with yourself about, as well as, is this serving me? Like, I don't think we do that a lot. Like, I think we kind of sign up, we get on board, but we never check back in to say, like, how is this serving me in the way that
Yeah.
I thought it would, and that the way that it should be in terms of like the benefits in my health and well-being. And I think that's why people stay on board with things in the health and wellness space way too long, because they never check back in and ask that question. So I just love powerful questions. And I love those two that you ask yourself. What do you find like in your clients when you're working with them? I'm sure they've had their own previous experiences with different diets or programs, but what have you noticed once they come in to your program and start integrating the Enneagram with their life in terms of pursuing this health and wellness journey? What have you found has been a aha moment for them that is just
Mm.
like, wow, they didn't realize this was possible or available?
Yeah. I think as I think about like my multiple clients and hopping through each, like empowerment is the word that keeps coming up. Um,
Ooh. Mm.
Especially because I think so often as women, we show up so disempowered. And when we go, when we seek a coach, we're looking for somebody to tell us in a lot of ways what to do.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to tell y'all what to do. I can
Yep.
offer, kind of like you said, like I can offer a million suggestions. A phrase that I say a lot is like, I'm throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks for you, because I can give you a
Mm.
million different suggestions, but none of them may stick. Some of them may stick. Some of them may resonate. Some of them may not. And
Mm-hmm.
my role is to really help you find yourself. Um,
Yes.
and like I said, the Enneagram gives us language. Like, all right, we've identified that you're a type 2. We're identifying that you really are struggling with the sense of feeling worthy and feeling loved. How is that showing up for you, and asking for what you need? Like, those two questions that
Mm.
I pose are really hard for most of my type 2 clients, because they don't see what they need, because they don't spend enough time focusing on themselves. They
Yeah.
spend more of their time focusing on others. And with each type, their thing is going to be a little bit different. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really helping them see themselves and showing up for themselves. And a mirror, maybe, I don't know if that's like the best connection, but I truly try to help them I truly try to help be a mirror and help them recognize what they need, through the lens of the Enneagram. And like, I'm really seeing a connection here to your 2 path, or your 8 path, or whatever the lines are, and like whatever their wings are, like helping them see, like, and this is a little bit of how that might look for you and how I'm seeing it. Does that resonate for you? And just really helping them
Mm.
see what I'm hearing, if that's accurate for
Yeah.
them, how it's showing up for them. And I think that language is powerful, because so
Mm-hmm.
often it's a struggle to communicate the thing that especially if we don't have practice, right? And so the
Right.
Enneagram, like I said, it's a great shortcut to like start using these paths and these wings and these different access points to give language to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what's showing up for us, and ultimately, in some ways, like what we want, and how
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
get after the thing that we want.
Mm. I love that, because it's almost like empowering, like the individual does help them get to where they actually want to be. It's like bridging the gap between where they are and where they want to be, is
Yep.
that empowerment, support, accountability, right?
Yep.
But I just love that you're saying like a common theme is they are empowered. And
Yep.
I feel that it's so funny, because when I first started coaching, a client like gave me feedback that She loved working with me. She just wished I told her what to do more. And I was like, I was
Yes.
doing coaching right. I was actually doing my job correctly. Thank you for
Yes.
that feedback, because women are not accustomed to and being empowered to vocalize what they want,
Yeah.
explore that. Like, it's just tell me what to do. And so I love that your clients and people can, through the Enneagram, I love you said that, find the language and feel empowered to know, okay, how can I support myself? What do I need? Which I think is so key in a sustainable health and wellness journey.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many opinions about the Enneagram. Some people are for it. Some people don't understand it. Do you have any like unpopular opinions or like myths that you'd like to debunk for people, or just in general about the Enneagram?
Yeah. I think one that shows up a lot, and probably one that's a harder one maybe to like stop since it's so systemic, is seeing it as just a personality test. Because I think, like, yes, it is, right? Like, that's a starting point, but it is so much more than personality. And it's actually like very nuanced, very personal, very vulnerable. Like, I don't ask folks what their Enneagram type is right off the bat. If they want to share it with me, cool. But like, if you're telling me your type, you're telling me a lot about you. And some of
That's
them, right,
true.
can be assumptions, but it leaves me curious around a lot of specific things about a person. And that can be extremely vulnerable. Especially
Yeah.
because, of course, like the knowledge that I have with the Enneagram. And so I think recognizing that the Enneagram is highly personal, highly vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
that just because someone tells you that they're type 9 doesn't mean you automatically assume, oh my gosh, you must be so lazy. Like, one, that's hurtful. Two, that's painful.
Yeah.
Three, that's probably a pain point for them that they're trying to navigate. Like, man, I feel so lazy. When the
Yeah.
reality is they're not lazy. They just operate differently in the world. And so
Mm.
I think the stereotypes are not helpful, that folks use around the Enneagram. And it can really be painful, and it can really be harmful, depending on, I think some types it can be more harmful than others, but across the board, like, it's harmful, it's hurtful. And just
Yeah.
recognizing knowing someone's type is really knowing a lot about a human, and to come from a space of curiosity, when you do have that
Mm.
information about someone, like, oh wow, how does that show up for you, versus, oh, you must be,
Mm.
because
That's
they might
good.
be, and they're probably like really hurting and struggling through it. Like, when folks call me a perfectionist, like, I'm what, how many years into my journey and like really self-aware and all of that. But when folks call me a
Yeah.
perfectionist, I real quick am like, no, actually, I really strive to be excellent in the things that I'm doing, but also be gentle with myself. And calling me a perfectionist,
Yes.
um, one, I feel like really pigeonholes me into a specific category and brings me back to a
Mm-hmm.
frantic mindset that I honestly have worked way too hard to
Mm.
unpack. So please don't call me a perfectionist,
Yes.
because I'm really just striving to be excellent, and I'm gonna do that in the most gentle way that I can. And so, yeah,
Again, you said so much there, and I resonate because I have perfectionist tendencies. If my siblings ever listen to this, they will laugh and be like, no, you are one. But I, like you, have grown over the
yeah,
years. And when you say that to me, it puts me in a frantic state. For me, I get in a frantic state of now, okay, how can I fix myself? How can I not be that? And I, like you, I resonate. I'm like, I just want things to be done with excellence.
yeah,
That's literally the place I'm coming from when I'm making
yeah,
decisions. So I have never thought about the Enneagram type being a vulnerable thing about someone, which you're right. It exposes what your core need is, what your core fear is.
yeah,
Like, it is vulnerable.
yep,
And that's one thing that, I heard on Instagram at some point of just like, I am not just my Enneagram number.
mm-hmm.
I'm a dynamic human
Yep,
being. I'm not static. And different seasons, I may look like one type or lean
yes,
towards another. And other seasons, I may be somewhere else. And so I'm not in this, like you said, in a box.
yeah,
It's not just that, but I'm a dynamic human being. And that also is empowering because it gives me this excitement and hope that I can evolve, I can grow.
absolutely,
and I'm not going to just remain the same as long as I'm putting in the work and like being patient with myself.
Absolutely.
But I just love what you shared about that. It's just, how can we be more kind to people and be more curious, which I think as coaches, we learn to be curious. Like, it's a skill we develop to just be curious about people. Yeah. But I think human beings in general would do a lot better in our one another relationships if we remained curious instead of allowing for our own biases and how we grew up or what we know to like make assumptions and judgments. So I love that you shared that. Could talk about this with you literally all day.
Yes.
Like, going through the numbers and like talking through each one. Yes. But I would love if you could just share like where women can start if they want to find out their own Enneagram type and try to start using it to support their health and wellness journey. Where's a good place for them to go to do that?
Yeah. You'll get many perspectives from people with how to find out your type. A lot of folks will say, like, just go take a test. And you can. I'm not against taking a test. I took a test. It came out quite right. But I think like the numbers are like 60% of folks get mistyped when they take a test. And so just because a test might say you're a type 8 doesn't mean you are a type 8. Check in with that and like really dig in and, you know, question the test. Like, is that accurate? Is that accurate for me? Like, do I really feel like that's my actual type? If it makes you mad, more than likely it's probably accurate.
This isn't me.
Yes. So it might be you. Might want to sit with that for a little bit longer. But I would recommend also like typing guides can be really helpful. Like, read through all 9 types before even taking a test, and see like what shows up for you. I have a typing guide that's available typically in the link in my bio on my Instagram or on my website. But there are many typing guides out there. You can Google Enneagram and get a bunch of information. My biggest recommendation typically when it comes to discovering your type is to really sit with the information, recognize like, just because a test, if you do opt to do that, says a certain thing, doesn't mean that that's what you are. And of course, you can always connect with me or any Enneagram coach to determine like whether or not that is your type or not, especially if you're wrestling between a couple types, which is not uncommon for certain types to like bleed into others, especially depending on what's going on in your life and the season in your life, the season you're trying to figure out your type. Like, so many things can be coming up. And like you said, we're dynamic humans. And so, yeah. In summary, you can take a test or use a typing guide. Highly recommend checking that with an Enneagram coach and just sitting with the information, seeing how that goes for you, if it feels right.
I love that. I love that you said sitting with it. I do highlight a lot for people to sit with being. Like, we go from like having a thought and then jumping to strategy, but we don't stop at just being for a second. And I love that you said just sit with yourself for a second and that information. You don't necessarily need to then go do some new habit or anything like that. So you did mention you're on Instagram. And you have a website. Are those the only places for people to find out how to work with you or to get access to the typing guide?
Those are the best places to connect with me.
Perfect.
Especially on Instagram. I love connecting with my followers. You can also get on my new email newsletter. I always respond to folks. And Ennea Health, we send out one monthly newsletter with a focus on a specific area of health. And so, you know, 1 month we're focusing on emotional health, another we're focusing on physical health. So whatever, all the dimensions of health. And then every Thursday I send out Thursday thoughts. So a glimpse into my journey, like my personal journey, motherhood, Enneagram, life, parenting, all the things, wife. And I am actually going back to school. So soon y'all will be hearing about my journey as a grad school student to get my second master's. And so lots of ways to connect with me, lots of things to learn about me. And Instagram would be a great start.
Yes, you all. I literally cannot, if you are in a place where you feel disconnected from yourself and you've tried all the things when it comes to supporting your health and wellness, I highly recommend working with an Enneagram coach, specifically Myrna, but that's just me. I'm biased because there is nothing like really improving the relationship with yourself and then making decisions in terms of the strategy. Absolutely. Like, it is so pivotal and will change the game for you. Myrna, thank you so much for your time and coming on to do this interview and share with people, probably honestly, a lot of people who aren't familiar, a sector and a tool that they can use, that they have access to help them and support them. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening in. If you enjoyed the episode today, head over and leave me a review. This helps others find the podcast and be one step closer to curating their healthy lifestyle. Come connect with me over on Instagram at Nike_Lamodi. And if social isn't your thing, join my beautiful newsletter community via the link in the show notes. To learn more about exclusive one-on-one wellness coaching, head over to randawellness.com. As always, remember to give yourself grace.